Have you ever wondered why fearful avoidant attachment style individuals seem to gravitate towards certain partners or certain individuals when dating and seem to sort of be repelled or put off by others? Well, if this is something you're curious about, or even curious about yourself as a fearful avoidant attachment style, we are going to talk about 7 major traits that tend to be quite surprising for people that very much attracts the fearful avoidant attachment style in relationships. So join me in this video and stick around to the very last trait, which may be the most surprising behind what attracts fearful avoidant individuals. Also, my goal for you is that by the end of the short video, you either understand yourself better as a fearful avoidant watching or as the partner or loved one as a fearful avoidant so that you can understand what makes you or your partner tick and whether or not a relationship is really a good match. By the way, if you're new to this channel, my name is Gibson, and I created the personal development school basically after about 10 years or so of client practice, wanting to come online, share more information that I thought could be very, very helpful, especially as somebody who once had a fearful avoidant attachment style, was able to really heal mine to become secure, felt really very much so that it was important to be able to share a lot of these tools and information with you if you're here on your journey, also looking to learn and grow. So, without further ado, let's talk about these 7 major traits and qualities that are often surprising. First and foremost, presence is key. And I don't mean like gifts. I mean presence, attunement, the ability to really be present is something that fearful avoidants very much look for in potential partners. Generally, it's because they were so present with other people and they were yearning for that presence back from somebody else in their environment growing up. And if there wasn't enough of it, often because caregivers were caught up with their own challenges or issues, then what ends up taking place is fearful avoidance essentially feel like there's this imbalance of feeling seen, heard, understood, connected through presence. And presence itself can be very much an act of love. And so giving your presence undivided attention or attunement to a fearful avoidant helps them very much feel received by somebody, and it tends to be something they are very much looking for. In fact, I would say that out of all the major things I found cause fearful avoidant attachment styles to kind of fall into limerence with somebody, it was usually presence itself, as that sort of initial meeting or trait that they felt very drawn or attracted to in another person. Number 2, availability. Even though fearful avoidance can very much feel put off by somebody coming on too strong or too quickly, there's a difference, a very nuanced difference, but a really important one between somebody coming on too strong or trying to pressure somebody to move too fast versus somebody being available. Availability means there's a sense of openness. They feel like, that person that they're seeing or they've met can be vulnerable, can open up, can share. Fearful avoidance when people seem too closed, although there can be a component of it where they're drawn to like the mystery of that. If somebody doesn't go from that sort of mysterious self to eventually being available and more vulnerable and more open, a fearful avoidant will have a really difficult time trusting that person, and it will cause them to feel eventually repelled by that person in a potential relationship or partnership down the line. Number 3, depth. Fearful avoidants do not do well with superficiality or superficial people. They actually tend to see it as a bit of a survival threat at a deeper subconscious level the vast majority of the time. Fearful avoidants are very much trying to find some sort of dynamic in a relationship that they can trust. And if there isn't a certain degree of depth within a relationship interaction or set of interactions, they often feel a sense of suspicion or a lack of trust towards that person or situation. Number 4, fearful avoidants are seeking novelty a lot of the time in a relationship. If somebody is, too stuck in a box, a pattern, is unwilling to try new things, go new places, travel, explore, often that can be something that causes the fearful avoidant to feel like there's a missing point of connection. And part of this comes from a less healthy place for the fearful avoidant. Part of the novelty seeking can sometimes come from an actual subconscious comfort zone of chaos, right? It can be that you were constantly dysregulated in sympathetic nervous system mode, AKA fight or flight mode growing up. And so you have a hard time sitting still. And so chaos is something that you're kind of seeking. And sometimes we attain chaos through novelty. It's important to note, by the way, if you're not as familiar with this channel, that when I say subconscious comfort zone, it's essentially that our subconscious sees familiarity as safe and a better chance for survival. And so if we had a lot of dysregulation growing up, even though consciously your conscious mind can evaluate, okay, this isn't healthy, your subconscious mind will often fall into the trap of going, well, it's familiar, so it must be working. It's safe. We've been surviving, so it's got to be working. Let's go for it. And so half of the novelty seeking for fearful avoidance often comes from chaos seeking at a deeper subconscious level. But another part is that fearful avoidance genuinely tend to appreciate novelty, exploration, discovery of new things. And because it can relate to the actual need for novelty, but also because it can relate to growth, which is something that I find a lot of fearful avoidance to be seekers of. I will say, by the way, if you're newer to a lot of this content or you're struggling with your attachment style as a fearful avoidant, I do have a fearful avoidant reprogramming course all about how to really recondition your attachment style to go from insecure to secure so that you can have thriving relationships. And I will put it in the link down below completely for free, just for a limited time. So you can check that out if you want to dig in there as well. Another big component of what draws fearful avoidance in is somebody being freedom loving. If somebody really is in a space where they appreciate freedom, can respect the fearful avoidance need to express freedom as a trait or quality, and also if somebody can allow the fearful avoidant to have their sense of independence and autonomy while also having connection, even though sometimes I think we get confused and think those are like separate things, they're really not. We can have freedom and we can have connection. They are not mutually exclusive. And generally, fearful avoidants are very much looking for the best of both worlds that way. And this brings me to number 6, which is the independence itself, right? So I kind of mentioned that in there, but really, fearful avoidants at a deep level tend to be looking for independence, but also trust. And it's something that really draws them if they feel like they can have their space, but also have a connection that they can feel safe within. And number 7, somebody who is accepting is something that's very important to a fearful avoidant, largely because it's a freedom from expectations. Fearful avoidants tend to be very put off very quickly by somebody having really high expectations of them, pretty much because it's their shadow and they tend to have extremely high expectations of themselves. So they get triggered because our shadow will trigger us. I have lots of videos about shadow work on this channel. But somebody who's accepting tends to be something that really draws the fearful avoidant in as well, even at a deeper level where they may not realize how important that is to them. That is something that really draws them in. So, that is it for today. Hopefully, this gave you some context, a little bit more information as well about fearful avoidance. And if you have any questions about this topic, please let me know in the comments down below. If you want to see any other content like this in the future, please also let me know. I come through here, I take a look at the comments, and I make sure to read through and try to create content that is being requested. And also, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing to this channel, and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future daily videos. Thank you for watching.